The grand hall of the Silent Blade Guild stood silent as a tomb. Master Blade, the leader of the universe's deadliest assassins, paced back and forth across the polished black floor. His 4 arms, each carrying a different weapon, moved in perfect rhythm with his steps. The massive screen behind him displayed their latest failure, the 5th in a row. "Impossible," he muttered, his gray skin turning a shade darker with frustration. Every calculation was perfect. Every variable accounted for. How did the target survive? The assembled assassins, each representing different alien species, watched their leader with growing concern. The Silent Blade never failed. Their reputation for perfect executions had made them legendary across 3 galaxies. "Master," spoke Tom Reed, their top field agent, "perhaps we should decline contracts involving planetary governors. The security is too—" "No." Master Blade's voice echoed through the chamber. "We are the Silent Blade. We do not decline contracts. We adapt. We overcome." He stopped pacing and faced his elite team. "But clearly, our current methods are failing us." The room's temperature dropped as Master Blade activated a hologram. A small blue planet appeared, rotating slowly in the air. "I have been studying something interesting. A species from this backwater world called Earth. They call themselves humans." Several assassins shifted uncomfortably. Humans were known throughout the galaxy, but mainly as merchants, soldiers, and troublemakers. They weren't considered a serious species by most standards. "Watch this," Master Blade commanded. The hologram changed to show various human military operations, survival situations, and crisis responses. Notice how they handle chaos. They don't just survive it. They thrive in it. They use it. James Walker sat in his small apartment on Earth, staring at his computer screen. Another rejected job application. At 42, being a former military strategist didn't open as many doors as he'd hoped. His unconventional approaches had saved countless lives during the last resource war, but peacetime employers weren't impressed by someone whose resume highlighted chaos manipulation as a key skill. The doorbell rang. James opened the door to find a tall, gray-skinned alien in an expensive-looking suit. 4 arms were clasped behind its back in a formal pose. "Mr. James Walker." The alien's translator produced perfect English. "I represent an organization that values your particular expertise. May I come in?" 20 minutes later, James sat on his worn couch, trying to process what he'd just heard. "Let me get this straight," he said, rubbing his temples. "You're from the most feared assassination guild in the universe, and you want to hire me as a chaos consultant." "Precisely," the alien replied, who had introduced himself as Agent Reed. "Your military record shows an exceptional ability to utilize unpredictable situations. Your strategies during the resource war were most irregular, yet highly effective." James laughed. "You mean like when I stopped the enemy advance by releasing zoo animals onto the battlefield? Or when you defeated an entire mechanized division by starting a chain reaction of traffic accidents?" Reed added, not sharing the humor. "These are exactly the kinds of solutions we need." "But I'm not an assassin." "No, you're something far more valuable. A human who understands chaos better than most. Our guild is perfect, too perfect. We plan everything down to the smallest detail. Yet lately, we've been failing. We need someone who can teach us to see chaos not as an enemy, but as a tool." James looked around his small apartment at the stack of rejection letters on his desk. "And the pay? More than you would earn in 10 lifetimes on Earth." James stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the city below. He watched as a car honked, causing another to swerve, which made a cyclist dodge, sending a flock of pigeons into the air. A perfect chain of chaos that most people never noticed. He turned back to Reed. "When do we start?" Reed's gray lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Pack light, Mr. Walker. The universe is about to become a much more unpredictable place." The Silent Blade's hidden base hung like a dark crystal in deep space, James pressed his hand against the viewport as their shuttle approached, admiring how the station seemed to vanish when viewed from certain angles. "Impressive," he said. "A space station that's actually invisible." Reed, standing perfectly still beside him, didn't share his enthusiasm. "Please don't touch the glass. It's cleaned precisely 4 times per day on a strict schedule." James deliberately left his handprint on the glass and watched Reed's gray skin ripple with irritation. The human was learning that nothing bothered these aliens more than disorder. The landing bay operated like a perfect machine. Every worker moved in precise patterns, every ship parked at exact angles. James purposely walked in a zigzag pattern across the floor, earning shocked looks from the staff. "First," Reed said as they walked through the corridors, "you'll observe our training room. Our newest recruits are practicing infiltration techniques." The training room was massive, filled with holographic environments and obstacle courses. 20 junior assassins moved through the space in perfect synchronization, their movements calculated down to the millimeter. "Stop," James called out, making everyone freeze. He walked to the center of the room, ignoring Reed's protest about interrupting the session. "What are you all doing?" A young assassin with blue-tinted scales answered, "Practicing the 17 approved methods of silent movement, sir." "And what happens when the floor creaks, or someone sneezes, or a dog starts barking?" The trainees looked at each other in confusion. James picked up a training weapon from a nearby rack. "Let me show you something we learned on Earth. It's called improvisation." He turned to Reed. "Activate your hardest combat simulation, and make it random." Reed hesitated, then input the commands. The room transformed into a luxury penthouse suite, complete with guards, security systems, and a target. James immediately tripped and fell into a decorative table, causing a vase to crash to the floor. The guards turned toward the noise, but James had already rolled under a sofa. While they investigated the broken vase, he crawled to the kitchen, deliberately knocking over a wine glass. "What is he doing?" one trainee whispered. "He's making so much noise." But as the guards spread out to investigate the multiple disturbances, James used their divided attention to create more chaos. He turned on the sink, set off a small fire in a waste bin, and even released a pet cat from its carrier. Within minutes, the guards were so busy dealing with what appeared to be a series of accidents that James reached the target without ever needing to hide. "Simulation complete," the computer announced. "Target eliminated. Time, 3.2 minutes. New record." The room fell silent. The trainees stared at James with a mixture of horror and fascination. But you broke everything." Reed sputtered. "That's not how it's done." James smiled. "On Earth, we have a saying. The best place to hide is in plain sight. When everything is going wrong, nobody suspects it's on purpose." He turned to the trainees. "Your perfect movements are beautiful, but predictable. Sometimes the best path is the messiest one." A small murmur of excitement ran through the young assassins. One of them knocked over a chair, then quickly apologized. No, James said. "That's good. Let's try something. Everyone pick up one thing and drop it." Reed watched in growing horror as his perfectly disciplined trainees began creating deliberate accidents. The room filled with crashes, bangs, and even some laughter. "This is madness," Reed said, his weapons twitching in all 4 hands. "This," James corrected, "is controlled chaos. And it's just the beginning." He watched as the trainees began to understand, their movements becoming less rigid, more natural. "By the time I'm done, you'll be the most unpredictable assassins in the universe." A young trainee raised her hand. "Can you teach us how to fail successfully?" James grinned. "Now you're thinking like a human." Master Blade stood before the massive screen, displaying their newest target. Lord Black runs the largest criminal empire in the Centauri system. His fortress has never been breached. 6 assassination attempts have failed in the past year alone. James studied the rotating hologram of a massive black fortress. Energy shields glowed around it, and weapon turrets covered every angle. But something else caught his attention. "What's that?" He pointed to a series of towers surrounding the fortress. "Weather control stations," Reed answered. "The planet's atmosphere is toxic. Lord Black keeps a bubble of breathable air around his fortress." A slow smile spread across James's face. "Tell me, how good is alien weather control technology?" "Perfect," Reed said. "It never fails." "Exactly," James grinned. "And that's why nobody will suspect it when it does." 2 days later, James and Reed crouched on a ridge overlooking the fortress. 3 other assassins from the Silent Blade accompanied them, still unsure about this strange human plan. "This is foolish," one whispered. "We should use our standard approach." "Your standard approach failed 6 times, James reminded them. He checked his tablet, showing a complex series of calculations. "Now, watch and learn how humans make their own luck." He pressed a button, sending a signal to the small devices they had planted on each weather control tower. The machines began to malfunction, but not in an obvious way. Instead of failing completely, they started creating small errors. First, the humidity levels rose slightly. Then the temperature began to fluctuate. Within minutes, small clouds formed inside the breathable zone. "Is this your great plan?" Reed asked. "A little bad weather." James held up 3 fingers. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, the rising hot air from one section met the cooling air from another. The artificial environment, designed to be perfect and stable, couldn't handle the chaos. A massive storm formed inside the protective bubble. Alarms blared across the fortress as wind speeds reached dangerous levels. Guards rushed to secure outdoor equipment. The weapon turrets, designed to target incoming threats, couldn't lock onto anything through the artificial storm. "Now," James said, "we walk in through the front door." The team moved forward, using the storm as cover. When they reached the main gate, James pointed to the emergency control panel. "Hit that with an EMP." One of the assassins fired a pulse, shorting out the panel. The gates, following safety protocols, swung open to allow evacuation if needed. Inside, the fortress was in chaos. Guards ran in all directions, trying to deal with multiple system failures. Nobody noticed 5 more people in environmental suits moving through the corridors. They found Lord Black in his panic room, arguing with his security chief about evacuation protocols. The door, rated to withstand any attack, had opened automatically when the environmental systems reported toxic gas levels, another safety feature working against its owner. The mission was over in seconds. As they left the fortress, the storm began to die down. The weather control systems, their temporary programming completed, returned to normal function. By the time investigators arrived, they would find no evidence of tampering, just a series of natural events that led to a perfect assassination. Back at the guild station, Master Blade reviewed the mission footage with growing amazement. No direct attacks, no weapons fired, no traces left behind. He turned all 4 eyes to James. "You killed the most protected crime lord in the sector using only the weather." James shrugged. "On Earth, we learned that nature is the perfect weapon. Nobody suspects it, nobody can trace it, and best of all, everyone thinks it was just bad luck." Reed, who had been quiet since their return, finally spoke. "I understand now. We've been trying to be perfect in an imperfect universe. But humans, you understand that imperfection itself can be a weapon." "Exactly," James said. "Now, who's ready to learn about earthquakes?" News spread fast in the assassin world. The Silent Blade's impossible success against Lord Black had every guild in the galaxy talking. But it wasn't just the success that worried them. It was how it happened. Natural causes. The leader of the Shadow Fangs, Hild, crushed a datapad in his claws. Nobody believes a storm just happened to form at the perfect moment. Across the galaxy, other guilds started investigating the Silent Blade's recent changes. It didn't take long for them to discover James's existence. In the Silent Blade station, James was teaching a class on chaos theory when Reed burst into the room. "We have a problem," he announced. "3 rival guilds just put bounties on your head." James didn't seem worried. "Only 3. I'm disappointed." "This isn't funny," Reed said, all 4 arms gesturing in frustration. "They're calling you our secret weapon, the Chaos Maker. They either want to hire you or kill you." James stood up and walked to the station's main viewport. "Then maybe it's time we expanded our operation." He turned to face the class. "How many humans do you think would be interested in becoming chaos consultants?" Master Blade called an emergency meeting. The guild's top assassins gathered as James explained his plan. "Earth is full of people who understand chaos," he said, pulling up profiles on the main screen. "Former soldiers, disaster response specialists, even some weather scientists. Each one brings a different way of thinking about controlled mayhem." "More humans," one of the senior assassins shuddered. "The station is chaotic enough with just one." "Exactly." James pointed at him. "And that's why we're winning. While other guilds focus on perfect plans, we're embracing uncertainty. Think bigger. We could have a whole department of chaos experts." Before anyone could respond, the station's alarms blared. On the main screen, 3 ships appeared, bearing the marks of rival guilds. "They're here for you," Reed told James. James smiled. "Perfect. Time to show them what a cornered human can do." The rival guilds had planned their attack perfectly. One ship would disable the station's shields, another would dock and capture James, and the third would provide cover fire. It was a flawless plan, which is exactly why it failed. As the first ship approached the shield generators, they discovered that James had already sabotaged them by making them work too well. The shields were operating at 200% power, creating an unpredictable energy field that no ship could safely approach. The second ship tried to dock, only to find that all docking clamps were randomly extending and retracting due to a computer glitch. Any attempt to attach would tear their ship apart. The third ship, trying to provide cover fire, found its targeting systems confused by hundreds of small debris pieces that James had released into space. Actually just pieces of scrap metal, but moving in such chaotic patterns that they couldn't get a clean shot. From the station's control room, James watched with the others as the frustrated ships eventually retreated. "You planned for this attack," Reed realized. "That's why you've been making small adjustments to our systems all week." "Rule 1 of chaos planning," James said. "The best traps don't look like traps at all. They look like accidents waiting to happen." Master Blade, who had watched the entire event in silence, finally spoke. "Begin recruiting more humans. If our rivals want a chaos weapon, we'll show them an army of chaos." James looked at his student assassins, who were now taking notes on how he had turned the station's own systems into weapons. "We're going to need a bigger training room," he said, "and maybe some insurance for all the stuff that's about to get broken." As the assassins filed out, Reed stayed behind. "I admit it," he said. "When you first arrived, I thought you were just a crazy human who got lucky. Now I understand. You make your own luck." "That's the thing about chaos," James replied. "Once you learn to surf it, you never want to go back to swimming." The lecture hall of the Silent Blade station was packed, not just with assassins, but with scientists and strategists from across the guild. 6 months had passed since James's arrival, and today he would explain why humans understood chaos better than any other species. James stood before the massive screen, which showed images of Earth. "Look at this planet," he said. "Really look at it." Reed, sitting in the front row, studied the images. "It seems unstable." "Exactly." James pointed to different pictures. "Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, floods. Earth throws everything at its inhabitants, and that's just the natural disasters." The screen changed to show Earth's varied environments. Desert next to jungle, Arctic regions near temperate zones, oceans that can be calm one minute and deadly the next, Our planet never lets us get too comfortable. A young assassin raised her hand. But other planets have harsh conditions. True, James agreed. But most harsh planets are consistently harsh. You know what to expect. Earth? Earth likes to surprise you. One day it's peaceful. The next day, a tornado appears out of nowhere. He brought up new images, showing human history. We evolved on a planet that demanded adaptability. Other species developed perfect solutions for their environments. Humans, we had to develop perfect solutions for imperfect situations. The screen showed various human innovations. Look at our military history. Every time someone developed the perfect defense, someone else found a weird way around it. The strongest castle could fall to a disease outbreak. The most advanced army could be defeated by simple weather. Master Blade leaned forward, all four eyes focused intensely. This explains why humans seem to thrive in emergency situations. Exactly. James paced across the stage. Humans don't just survive chaos. We evolved with it. It's in our DNA. When everything goes wrong, that's when we're most in our element. He brought up footage from the Lord Black mission. Take this operation. Any other species would try to overcome the fortress's defenses. We turned the defenses themselves into weapons. That's human thinking. We don't try to fight chaos. We surf it. The screen changed to show the Silent Blade's recent success rates. Since we started incorporating controlled chaos into our operations, our success rate has actually increased. We're not just completing missions, we're completing them in ways that can't be traced or predicted. Reed stood up. But how do we learn this? Our species values order and precision. James smiled. Think of chaos like water. You can try to stop it with a perfect wall, but water will always find a way through. Instead, learn to direct it, guide it, use its own momentum. He demonstrated by pouring water onto a complex maze-like structure. The water didn't follow the designated paths. It created its own. Stop thinking about the right way to do things. Start thinking about all the wrong ways that could accidentally lead to success. The room was silent as the implications sank in. Years of training in perfect execution were being challenged by this fundamentally different approach. I know this is hard, James continued. You've all spent years learning to be perfect. I'm asking you to learn how to be perfectly imperfect, to create situations where failure becomes a type of success. Master Blade stood up. This is why we needed humans, not just for their chaos techniques, but for their understanding of chaos itself. We've been fighting the universe's natural disorder. Humans learn to dance with it. James nodded. Every human you recruit brings a new way of seeing chaos. Different backgrounds, different experiences, different ways of turning problems into solutions. He looked out at the assembled guild members. The universe isn't perfect. It's messy, chaotic, and unpredictable. And that's exactly why humans are the perfect assassins. We don't just accept chaos. We are chaos. The room finished with him, finally understanding. Impossible. Master Blade rarely used that word anymore, but this target seemed to deserve it. The client wants us to eliminate Oracle Mind. James looked at the target's profile on the main screen. What makes this one so special? Oracle Mind is precognitive, Reed explained. He can see the future, every possible future. No assassin has ever gotten close. He sees them coming days or weeks in advance. The room fell silent. Even the Silent Blade's new chaos techniques seemed useless against someone who could see the future. The alien sat in his fortress on a desert moon, protected by his perfect knowledge of upcoming events. James scratched his chin. How far ahead can he see? Up to 2 weeks with perfect clarity, Master Blade said. After that, the futures become less certain. Interesting. James brought up a map of the fortress, and he sees every possible future. Every single one. James started to smile. Then let's give him too many futures to see. The plan was unlike anything the Silent Blade had ever attempted. For 2 weeks, they sent teams to create chaos all around Oracle Mind's fortress. Not to attack, just to create possibilities. One team accidentally crashed a transport ship near the fortress. Another started a mining operation on the other side of the moon. 3 different construction companies suddenly showed interest in building near the fortress. A solar research station appeared. A group of tourists got lost nearby. A religious group decided to build a temple. A weather station needed urgent repairs. "I don't understand," Reed said as they watched the activity from their hidden command post. "We're not even trying to get close to him. We're creating noise," James explained. "Think about it. He has to track every possible future from every one of these events. Each person could potentially become a threat. Each activity could hide an attack." More chaos followed. A cargo ship declared an emergency and had to land. A group of scientists wanted to study local minerals. A herd of alien cattle broke free from their transport and wandered the area. Inside his fortress, Oracle Mind was getting overwhelmed. Every new activity spawned thousands of possible futures. Every person created millions of potential actions. His perfect vision of the future became clouded with too many possibilities. "Now," James said on day 13, "for the real chaos." The Silent Blade deployed 50 teams. None of them were trying to kill Oracle Mind. Instead, each team had a different task that could possibly, under the right circumstances, lead to his death. One team was there to fix the power generators, another to check radiation levels. Others came to inspect the water supply, repair communications, update security systems, or deliver supplies. Oracle Mind's future vision became a tsunami of possibilities. A maintenance worker could accidentally cause a power surge. A supply delivery could contain contaminated food. A security update could shut down the wrong system at the wrong time. The perfect defense against someone who can see every future, James explained to his team, is to make every future possible. In the end, Oracle Mind never saw the actual attack coming. He was so busy tracking millions of possible accidents and incidents that he missed the simple poison in his afternoon tea, delivered by a kitchen worker who honestly didn't know it was poisoned. They had been mind-wiped after making the tea, creating a future even Oracle Mind couldn't track. Back at the guild station, Master Blade added another successful mission to their record. "You didn't just beat his future sight," he said to James. "You drowned it in possibilities." James nodded. Sometimes the best way to handle a perfect defense is to overload it. Every system has a breaking point, even the ability to see the future. Reed, who had watched the entire operation, finally understood. This is why humans are different. We didn't try to find the one perfect future that would work. We created so many imperfect futures that something had to work. "Exactly," James said. "When you can't find a path through the chaos, make more chaos." His students finished with him. 1 year after James Walker first stepped onto the Silent Blade station, the guild held its largest gathering ever. The main hall was filled with assassins, both old and new. Among them stood 30 human chaos consultants, each bringing their own style of controlled mayhem to the guild. Master Blade addressed the crowd. "Today marks a new era in our history. The Silent Blade is no longer just the deadliest assassination guild. We are now the most unpredictable force in the galaxy." The screens behind him showed their success rate, 100% over the last 6 months. No other guild came close to matching it. James watched from his position near the stage. Next to him, Reed had finally learned to embrace the chaos, even wearing his weapons slightly out of perfect alignment. "Other guilds still don't understand," Reed said quietly. "They keep trying to copy our methods, but they're only copying the surface." "That's because they're still thinking like assassins," James replied. "They see chaos as a weapon. We see it as an art form." The screens changed to show their recent missions. A target eliminated by a series of coincidences that led to him walking into his own security laser. Another removed by a chain of events that appeared completely random to investigators. A third whose own defensive measures caused their demise. "The galaxy has changed," Master Blade continued. "Our rivals now fear not just our skill, but our unpredictability. They never know if a mission is one of ours until it's too late. And even then, they can't prove it. James stepped onto the stage when Master Blade called him forward. The hall fell silent. A year ago, James said, I was an unemployed military strategist on Earth. Nobody wanted someone who saw chaos as an advantage. He gestured to the assembled crowd. Now look at us. We have weather experts who can make storms appear natural. Emergency responders who understand how disasters cascade. Scientists who know how to make accidents look inevitable. The human consultants in the crowd stood a little taller. Each had brought their own chaos expertise to the guild. One had been a demolitions expert who understood how small weaknesses could lead to natural-looking collapses. Another was a former emergency room doctor who knew how seemingly unrelated medical issues could combine with deadly results. But our greatest achievement, James continued, isn't just our success rate. It's that we've changed how the galaxy thinks about perfection. The screens showed their newest training programs. Young assassins learned not just how to execute perfect missions, but how to create situations where perfection wasn't needed. They studied Earth's history, learning how chaos had shaped human thinking. The future of assassination isn't in perfect plans, James said. It's in understanding that the universe itself is our greatest ally. Chaos isn't our enemy. It's our partner. Master Blade stepped forward again. From this day forward, the Silent Blade officially recognizes chaos strategy as its primary methodology. Every assassin will be trained in both precision and chaos techniques. The crowd erupted in applause, notably uncoordinated applause, which would have been unthinkable a year ago. As the celebration continued, James found himself back at the viewport where his journey had begun. Reed joined him. The other guilds are terrified, Reed said. 3 more tried to hire their own human consultants last week. James smiled. Let them try. They'll learn that chaos isn't just a technique you can copy. It's a way of thinking, a way of seeing the universe. And that's why they'll never catch up, Reed realized. They're trying to learn chaos as a skill. We've learned to live it. Below them, a new group of recruits, both alien and human, practiced in the training room. The aliens were learning to think like humans, while the humans learned the guild's traditional skills. Together, they were creating something entirely new. So, Reed asked, what impossible mission should we take on next? James watched a trainee successfully complete a mission by causing 3 unrelated accidents. With chaos on our side, nothing is impossible anymore. The station hummed around them, its perfect systems now deliberately operating at slightly random intervals, organized chaos just the way they liked it.